I'm not giving up on you. These 6 words changed the trajectory of my life. What could have been my ultimate failure, those words inspired me to take action and overcome the obstacles standing in the way. My name is Derrin Slack, and this is Stood in the Gap, the show that focuses on the who, not the how, behind a leader's success. Success is not achievable alone. We all have a story of a person who took a risk, someone who imagined a life greater than what we could for ourselves, someone who stood in the gap. This show shares those someones, those unsung heroes who pushed us when we could have settled for what is. Growing up, I knew what it felt like to be different, to be vulnerable, to live in the margins. While my parents inspired me to achieve, I struggled with a stutter that felt almost paralyzing at times. I persisted forward, doing the best I could academically, finding myself playing football to get through school. In college, after turning down a service trip due to finances, I received a call from my football coach. "Your trip is all paid for," he said. A trip of what later would become one of a lifetime. So there I was, standing in front of a crowd in Africa, with the challenge of sharing my story. And I was nervous, unsure whether I could get through it. Leading up to the trip, I practiced my speech over and over again, each time failing to muster out the words. But then, to my surprise, in front of this crowd of strangers, the words emerged, seamlessly, almost flawlessly, forever igniting a passion for service to others. In that moment, while shaking hands with those in the audience, I knew that my responsibility now is to be a voice for others, empowering and helping those who once felt the way I did. Hopeless. While that was the first case of someone standing in the gap for me, it definitely isn't the last. Fast forward, and I've started ProAct, a nonprofit organization focused on community engagement and service learning for vulnerable youth. After having success serving over 15,000 people and connecting schools, businesses, and nonprofits together, I felt the success. And I allowed pride and ego to take over my purpose and mission. As a result, my board of directors was forced to walk away. You see, that mistake severed relationships with the end of my nonprofit looming. When I felt like giving up, one person emerged. And those words, "I'm not giving up on you," is what catapulted me to overcoming the loss of relationships and a headline that threatened my reputation. Instead of throwing in the towel, I remembered who I was called to become, reflecting on my trip in college, coupled with the belief from an influential leader. I remembered my why. This show is a reflection of my own journey, while also sharing the stories of other leaders and who they were before they achieved their goals. The stories often left untold, yet those stories made the difference between giving up and pressing on. And in those moments, what made all the difference? Each leader on our show shares what was said in their darkest moments, catapulting them out of the darkness and into who they are today. What were those words? And more importantly, what happened next? That's what we'll find out. Launching November 2020, Stood in the Gap will remind you where you came from while inspiring you for what comes next.